Welcome back to Edgework on the Hammer Betting Network, a daily live NHL show, Monday through Friday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, breaking down the games of that night, breaking down what happened in the night before, and giving best bets. As always, you can find us on Twitter at Edgework Show. You can find us on YouTube at Edgework, and if you want to track all the picks that are made on this show in real time, see how they're performing throughout the day, whether the lines are moving in our favor or against us, and you want to track them after the fact, you can go over to the BetStamp app, click on the little button there that says Find Bettors. You can search us up as Edgework, give us a follow, and you will see all the plays made in real time. Guys, there's 5 games on the schedule here tonight, so we will go through each one of those. But before we do, last night, not only was there a few games with a scoring onslaught against a couple of teams, but there was one man in particular who managed to outscore another team who put up 4 goals themselves. That is Tage Thompson, scoring 5 goals last night for the Buffalo Sabres, 4 in the first period alone. So Money, I know you watched that Buffalo game. That was a pretty exciting one to get to witness.
Yeah, and I mean, like, great on the kid. He's gonna enjoy that his whole career. It's gonna be something that's gonna, no matter what happens going forward, it's gonna be something that kind of people remember. And that's something as you're a kid going through the years in the league. It's nice to be remembered for something like that so early in your career. And Columbus, I mean, what are you guys doing here, right? Like, I thought that Larson saved his job with all the injuries that they were suffering, but with a performance like that, I think that he's back in the picture too now for first coach fired.
Yeah, you're probably a little nervous about that one, as is Alex Moretto holding on to some Boudreau first coach fired tickets. But hey, don't worry about it as long as Bruce Boudreau continues to scratch guys on nights that are important to them. Then things may continue to go south in Vancouver. We'll see. I mean, they do continue to get wins. But Russ, did you catch any of that Sabres game last night?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Actually, in a chat that So Money and I are in, a couple of the guys had over 3.5 shots on goal for Tage Thompson. I think that went over the first period. He ended up with 9 shots on goal, 5 goals. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I checked that score. I think it was 6-0 in the first period. I had to double check. I closed my app just to make sure something wasn't glitching, open it back up. Sure enough, 6-0 in the first period. So, yeah, it was absolutely wild. And then the same thing that we've talked about with the Canucks, man. They cannot stop anybody. And fortunately, the Sharks are terrible at defense too, so they were able to score a couple goals last night. But I think, like we've talked about multiple times, that back end on the Canucks is just awful. Their defense is struggling. So, yeah, there's all kinds of goals last night, which I love to see. We're primarily over bettors on my end, so I love to see that onslaught of goals. It's so much fun.
All right, well, I have a question for you guys, and this partially stems from something that was asked to me the other day. But throughout the NHL, I mean, we're sitting here talking about guys could be first coach fired. So who's going to be the first coach fired? And you look around the league, there's different guys that it could be at this point even. But it's a lot of it is like, who's going to be that replacement? Well, something you continue to hear is like, oh, Barry Trotz is sitting out there in the rafters. You hear about guys who used to coach in the league who might have an opportunity to come back. Rick Tocchet. The NHL is a league that kind of recycles through coaches at a high pace. Now, the question that was asked to me was way off the beaten path. I did not see it coming. They asked me if Mike Babcock could ever have an opportunity to coach in the NHL again. And it was one where I actually had to pause for a second just based on where teams go in terms of looking for guys to come back. Like as soon as John Tortorella was done, I kind of thought like, all right, that's probably the end of Torts in the NHL. What is it in the NHL that makes recycling coaches almost successful? I mean, you're looking at a team like Las Vegas who goes out and grabs Bruce Cassidy, who was fired in Boston. They're having success. Jim Montgomery comes in back as a head coach with Boston. They're having success. Lindy Ruff to New Jersey. They're having success. And it's like, I'm definitely even missing some around the league here. Rick Bowness in Winnipeg. Now all of a sudden they're having success. Maurice goes to Florida. Not the greatest story there as of right now, but like, what is it in the NHL that differentiates it a little bit where it's like, hey, just recycling through guys, they'll continue to have success?
I think that there's a there's a couple ways to look at it. If you on one hand you have coaches who are, with their style and the way they are, they're a better fit in certain situations. So you look at a guy like Tortorella, we know how he is, right? The guy's gonna rip the paints off the wall. It works on like a young team for a little bit, right? So if you need to get a young team to change the culture of their dressing room, a guy like him works. Now, I can't see him there in Philadelphia for like the next 4 or 5 years, but
Yeah.
but to get them to a certain level, I think he's there. Very similar to Rick Bowness as well in Winnipeg. They needed to change the culture there. They didn't necessarily, they weren't ready to kind of blow up that team, so they wanted to change their culture. So you bring in a guy like Bonus who's good, but he's also known to be kind of a hard ass sometimes too. You kind of need that. The other way to look at it is that hockey is a really high variance sport, right? So you're going to have situations where um it doesn't work out for a period of time, but you do the same thing somewhere else and it just works out, and that's just variance, right? Um, so there's two ways to look at it. I think that there is something to be said about coaching styles, though, and I think that it definitely does matter in hockey.
Yeah, 100%. I think, so many kind of nailed it on the head, but just to reiterate a little bit, it seems to me like certain coaching styles fit with different groups of players a little bit better. And so kind of once they get in the guys that they want, or maybe they switch to a team that they can incorporate their culture, their defensive style a little bit more, that just kind of clicks a little bit more with some of those guys. And yeah, I'm sure the age has a lot to do with it. Like so many said, if you get some of these younger guys that can be molded, these New Jersey Devils, with Lindy Ruff just absolutely changing this team. And I would say it happens in other sports too. When you look at the NFL, you've got people like Doug Peterson, who hasn't had a great season, but he's back and he's doing a great job with the terrible Jaguars team. You've got Ron
Yeah.
Rivera up at the Washington Commanders and completely turned around a terrible team. So I think it happens in a lot of different sports. And it's just part of kind of finding your fit, finding that culture fit, and then finding guys that want to buy in, exactly like so many said.
All right, real quick then, before we go into these games, because I was asked the question, I had to answer it myself. So Money, I'll start with you. Do you see any type of situation that could see Mike Babcock back in the NHL at any point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he will get in with like probably a low profile team, um, relatively low profile, low kind of team. So like even like a place like Columbus, maybe I can see him popping up there.
Russ, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that those low hanging teams kind of pop up first. You think about teams like that probably will stick with like the Blackhawks probably will stick with their guys. The Ducks probably will stick with their coaching. The Blue Jackets is probably one of the first teams that come to mind too. And we were chatting about this a little bit before the mics clicked on, but that's definitely not something that So Money wants to see because he's got that Bruce Boudreau first coach fired future. But yeah, that would be one of the only teams I would worry about without you cashing that. It's like so I don't know. Maybe what if Mike Babcock goes to goes up to Vancouver and rejuvenates that squad.
He's gonna have Pedersen and Besser writing lists about who works the least hard on the team.
Yeah.
No, I think
um,
it's
our,
super interesting.
yeah,
Like, what are you doing in this day and age, having stuff like that, and then allowing it to get out?
I
Yeah,
know. I know. I see. I said no, and the reason I said no was because I think his handling after it became public was part of what was so
sure.
difficult there. He's been known to be a guy who's a complete hard ass. If you follow Mike Commodore at all, you can basically see like every other tweet or thing that he does. He just has to give an FU to Mike Babcock about his handling of situations, which like fair enough. Certain guys are just gonna hate certain coaches. It's what it is. Like it happens in anything. Certain people are just going to hate certain teachers or whatever it is in life, but it happens. Other people will love them. I think it was just like his handling of it. When he was asked about it, he was basically just like, yeah, I did that. And like, what do you want from me? Whereas I think if he was kind of like, yeah, it was a mistake, like learn, move on, I think it would probably be a little bit easier to digest. I just that was my only gripe with the situation, really. Other than like, I think what he did was kind of idiotic, like. But anyways, going on to tonight's games, we do have 5 here, so we'll go through each one of them. Let's start with the Nashville Predators and the Tampa Bay Lightning here. The Predators are currently a bunch of games back. They have a bunch of games in hand on some of these teams ahead of them in the West out there. They are 2 points out of a wild card spot, but if you're looking, they've got like 3-4 games in hand on teams that are in wild card spots, or even teams that are just in positions in their divisions ahead of them. And some of that obviously has to do with the fact that their arena flooded and they had to take a couple of games off at home or postpone them. But that's a team that's kind of in a weird spot because they're on that like fringe bubble area where, hey, maybe you have a good run and you could push in. You've got a good goaltender in net in Saros. You've got guys that you've signed back that you think could be impact players like Forsberg and Granlund, guys that can make impacts there. Tanner Jeannot, a young guy who could potentially blossom into something incredible there, like maybe the next Tom Wilson. And you're looking at some of these guys, you think maybe that team could be pretty good, but right now, not necessarily in the greatest spot. And the team they're going up against tonight, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they just continue to roll. The biggest thing that I've compared them to has been the Golden State Warriors after they had that incredible season where they set NBA records and they went on to the finals and they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it was a huge story because it was like, hey, you set all these records, doesn't mean anything till the playoffs. Well, Tampa just basically seems content to get to the playoffs. And one thing that made it very evident was John Cooper's statements after the game against the Maple Leafs. He basically said to the media, he's like, yeah, when I was very young in my career, each regular season loss impacted us and it weighed on us, and it doesn't really anymore. And I think that was a little bit of a shot at Toronto and Toronto media because they absolutely live and die by every single game, every single loss, and you lose in overtime to the Tampa Bay Lightning and the world is collapsing. But I think he was just kind of even making a general blanket statement of like, we don't really give a shit. Like, we're just trying to get to the playoffs, and that's where we know we'll be good. So, Money, when you're looking at this game, Tampa, Nashville, I mean, not necessarily any goalie confirmations that I've seen yet, but how do you kind of break this one down?
So I think we've seen this in the last couple of years that there's pretty much nothing Tampa Bay can do in the regular season for me to start worrying about them. Um, they did this last year too. They're just trying to get by, right? Like they know that they're one of the few teams that does have a different gear in the playoffs. I often talk about that. It's really hard to just turn it on, just when you feel like it, when like the games mean more. But they're an exception to that. For tonight, I'm not high on Nashville coming into the season. I think that they had a lot of production last year from guys who kind of played above expectations, and I going into the season I kind of expected that to start regressing a bit. And even with those numbers from guys who didn't necessarily, I didn't expect it, it still took a career year by Soros to get them into the playoffs, right? So I'm not high on this team. They have struggled defensively. Now the good thing for them is that Soros has found his game. I do expect him to start here. But for Tampa Bay, we're just waiting for goalie confirmation, which it could break when we're on air. So I will have that. I will have that breaking news for you guys as soon as it's confirmed. But I'm actually expecting Elliott to get the start, and if he does, you're gonna see the market blow up on the overs and on Nashville, probably to a lesser extent, but definitely on the over for sure. So we're waiting for that. I do like the over. Tampa Bay continues to generate offense. They're still pushing the pace. They have shown kind of glimpses there of not caring defensively sometimes, which I think goes go, goes into what you were talking about earlier, that sometimes it just doesn't matter. And a game against Nashville in the middle of December, like honestly, who really cares?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I can see this being a freewheeling kind of game.
It's kind of
Yeah.
impressive, Russ. It's kind of impressive that like we actually get to watch a team that just night in night out is like, we don't care who we play, we don't
Yeah.
care what position we finish in the standings. Like you see at the end of the season, every team like, oh, every point matters. It matters home ice. It matters who you play. Tampa is quite literally like, we don't care. Put us on the road. Put us against the best team. Put us against the worst team. We don't care. It's the playoffs. We're gonna play playoff hockey. We're gonna win.
Yeah, and they're still winning. Yeah, exactly. You know, they're in one of the toughest divisions in the league, and they're 8-2-0 in their last 10 games, and they're just playing well. They're playing very well. On the other side of the puck, just to kind of reiterate what So Money said on Nashville, they've actually surprised me a lot these past few games. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. Saros has just been playing as well as last year. And even Kevin Lankinen has been playing really well as a backup goalie. They've been doing it with defense. I think they're ninth in goals allowed against, expected goals allowed against. I'm sorry. But they're 30th in goals when they're on the road. So I think they might struggle here against a very good Tampa Bay team. Now, on the other side of the puck, Tampa Bay just scores in bunches at home. They're fourth in goals at home. Their over-under is 9-4 in their last 13 games at home. So I do show value. I've got this game lined closer, a little bit above 6.5. So if we do see Elliott here, I might try and take a quick 6, but it'll be a race to the screen, because So Money and all his boys will be hitting that over 6, I'm sure, right away. So it'll be kind of fun to watch. If Elliott does pop up, open your odds screen up and just check out how the market reacts, just so you can be prepared for next time. But this will probably end up being no play for me. I'll be rooting for So Money and the guys in the chat to get get over 6 goals.
We do have a 6, some 6s hanging out there right now. I'm seeing some of the best one in market is -115. You can find that on a bunch of different books, but yeah, just keep your eyes on that, see how it plays out throughout the day. I mean, goalie news is fairly important, especially if not for what you deem it to be in terms of the movement yourself. It'll be very important for how the market might move and react accordingly. Another game here tonight, next one, the Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the LA Kings. Now, this team, obviously, we're talking about Toronto. This is a team that lives and dies by every game. They need to win every game. Otherwise, it is end of the world here in Toronto, and we'll burn things down and riot in the streets. But this Leafs team, they've continued to roll despite missing some of their top defensemen. They do manage to get TJ Brody back in the lineup here tonight, which kind of comes at the perfect timing as Victor Mete got injured in the last game. So they were down to 5D for about half of that game against Dallas. This is a team that whoever you switch between with goaltenders hasn't really mattered, whether it be Murray or Samsonov. They've both been very good. Matt Murray obviously does put up statistically one of the greatest goaltending performances in a shutout of all time against the Dallas Stars the other night. But even relying on Samsonov being the guy in there, he's been a guy who can win them some games at different points throughout the season so far. Now on the flip side, the LA Kings, their goaltending situation has been quite a disaster. I mean, they've had to send Peterson down. Quick has not been great, but I mean, he's not going to get sent down. He can't get sent down. And then they've just had to outscore some problems, and they've ended up in situations where it's been so bad they can't outscore those problems. Russ, if you're looking at this game here tonight, I'm seeing over under 6 in the game right now. Leafs are heavily favored going up against the Kings. Is this one about where you thought it would be going into today? Like if you're just looking at it, maybe you're making some numbers on the game. Is this about where
Yeah.
it should be?
Yeah, I think I think the side is right on market for my numbers. I have Toronto right about one minus 190, so there will be no play there. Unfortunately, I do have an edge on the over constantly with this Toronto team. I think that's because of their defense is missing so many players that I have a little bit of an edge on the over. But I probably will lay off. It's probably not enough for me to lock in. They're 3-10 in their last 13 games at home on the under. So the over under is 3-10 towards the under on their last 13 games at home. And I mean, like you said, Quick is just a mess on the other side. That would be one thing that would lean me towards the over. I've got him at 68th in goals saved above expectation. He's allowed 7 goals in the last 2 games on 52 shots, which is just a terrible goal saved percentage. So, if anything, I think Toronto regulation will probably get there. They'll probably win pretty handedly, but I don't think I have any value. I won't have a play on the over with how this Toronto's defense has been playing. Man, their back end has just been playing so well the last few games. And like you said, Murray and Samsonov has surprised everybody. Samsonov 8 in goals saved above expectation. 8, that's pretty dang good. And their defense is really good at home, just like I said, Toronto. So this won't be a play for me. If anything, I think the Leafs take care of business pretty easily.
Yeah, I live in Vancouver, and I make no secret of the fact that I love this Leafs team. I've
Yeah,
loved them for the last couple of years. I think that even their loss last year, there was a lot of bad luck involved there. Um, I This team actually reminds me a lot of that 2011 Canucks team, where you just have some sort of like mental block, and if they can somehow scrape their way out of the first round, I think that
sure.
things are gonna open up for them. Um, Russ mentioned it. I think that a very strong defensive team. I love the way that this team plays strong team defense. They did have a little bit of a dip defensively, obviously against Dallas, but I mean that's that that's a powerhouse Dallas offense. So I'm not gonna hold that against Toronto just for one game. Similarly, Kings are coming off a strong game against Ottawa, but that's coming on the heels of a string of bad performances. So just like I'm not gonna hold that one bad defensive game that the Leafs played against Dallas, even though they did get a shutout, it wasn't a great defensive game. Um,
Hmm.
I'm not going to hold that against them. I'm not going to give the Kings too much credit here for getting it together for one game. So it'll be a pass on the side for me. I'll see how high this total gets. We have been playing a lot of Leafs unders here.
Hmm.
It's one of the nice secrets in hockey right now is
Yeah.
the Toronto unders. But I think that if we get to a high point here, I think that I can see myself on the under here, close to the
Hmm.
puck drop.
I could easily see 3-1, 4-1 result. Toronto just getting the home win very, very easily. Moving on.
All
And
right, very
sorry, we
quick.
have some breaking news here.
All right, who we got?
Um, Brian Elliott is the first goalie off the ice.
You called it. Good call. So many.
So now watch that screen light up, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. There you go. Well, that's why you tune into to Edgework. You get instant notifications of what's going to happen in terms of goalies, who's starting that night, and where the screen may move as they get previewed before the news about who's in net that night. But real quick, guys, yes, no. Does Mitch Marner continue the point streak here tonight, making it 21 consecutive games? Russ, start with you.
Yeah, he should have no issue here continuing the point streak. The Kings don't have a great defense, and like I said, I think he could easily get a point here. There should be no shortage of goals for Toronto. I think Quick is terrible, and there should be no shortage of goals on that end. My worry would be that Samsonov would pitch a shutout or allow one goal for the
Yeah.
total. But yeah, I think Mitch Marner was fine. That should be a very good look.
And
Yeah,
so
I
money,
think.
you think he continues it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think he's gonna get there. I
Yeah, this
can't
is
see the Kings doing anything to like stop that.
yeah,
Is
especially the Kings,
it,
right?
is this a story in Vancouver? Is this being covered in the media in Vancouver right now? The Mitch Marner point streak.
No,
They
I
don't even talk about the Leafs.
I I honestly think that the media in Vancouver go out of their way not to mention too much about Toronto
Yeah.
because we've been so inundated over the years with
Yeah,
like everything being Toronto centric. So I think there's a conscious effort now to like not talk about things too much, which I don't get. I don't get the hatred for the Leafs here. Like it's such like an inferiority complex, right?
yeah,
Like they don't even care about us. Like you talk to like Leafs fans, right? A
yeah.
lot of them actually like the Canucks, right? And like we're sitting here like Leafs this, Leafs that. I mean, like get it together.
All right, moving on to another game on the schedule here tonight. Detroit Red Wings, Florida Panthers going head to head in this one. Detroit just had a solid win over the Tampa Bay Lightning the other night. That's a team that, to me, I think they're just a pesky team. Like they're in a good position here. They're currently just outside of a playoff spot. If I'm
Yeah.
reading that
They're
correctly, yeah, they're
right ahead of the Panthers.
yeah, and this is a team that I think could actually potentially push to make the playoffs this season. It'll be hard to take out some of the people ahead of them. But that being said, like they're just kind of fun to watch. They've got young guys in there who are doing pretty well. You got Ville Husso in net for them. He's been pretty good so far with Detroit. Like that's an interesting, fun team to watch. And on the other end, you've got Florida, who's basically kind of panicking a little bit because they bring in a new coach in Paul Maurice. They make massive organizational changes, moving out Huberdeau and Uyghur and bringing in Matthew Tkachuk. And regardless of how you look at it, like that's a huge, huge change there because you also in the process lost Ben Sherratt and you lost Claude Giroux during free agency. That Florida team is much different than what they were last season. Barkov has been injured for a period of time. I see Josh C in the chat here also saying Panthers back after 5 road games, home for 1, next game on the road, like quotations versus Tampa. Like this Florida team, I just don't really know what to make of them night in, night out. So Money, what do you make of the Florida Panthers, and then how do you kind of see this matchup?
I think the Panthers are a perfect example of how you should not overreact over after one playoff series. Yes, they got swept. They got swept by an elite Tampa Bay team where in that first game, the way that they lost that game one, it was a coin flip. They probably shouldn't have lost. And you just don't know how that series plays out. Yes, they struggled against Washington. That was not a surprise with the way that Washington plays, right? So, on the way I looked at them in the playoffs, they should have struggled against Washington. They did, but they found a way to come through. They found a way to come through. It shouldn't have been shocking that they lost to Tampa Bay. Yes, they got swept, but there was a lot of things within those 4 games that did not warrant that series to be a sweep. But you panic, right? And now you bring in a new coach saying that we need to change everything. You blow everything up, and similarly to when we were talking about the Senators, I think a couple of weeks ago, you sometimes you can't just bring in a new culture and expect it to just click right away, right? In the long term, I think Florida is okay in the long term. They have good pieces in place. They've suffered quite a bit of unlucky losses this year too, where they've carried the play, they've generated more offense. They should have won, but then of course it's our old friend Bobrovsky that kind of holds them back, right? So in this game, I do like the over here, but we need to wait for goalie confirmation. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to get it for the next half an hour or so. But if it is Bobrovsky and net against Nedeljkovic, I do like the over. But this game is gonna it really depends on both goalies. So if it's Husso and Knight, I'll probably lay off. But I do need the over for Bob and Ned.
Yep, completely agree. For once, so money and I are on the same side of a Panthers total, which is nice to
Yeah.
see. Yeah, I locked in the over here right before we turned the mics on at a flat 6.5 at plus money. This I talk about this Panthers team every week, and especially when they're playing at home, they're just awesome at home. They're 6-2 in their last 8 games at home. Their last 11 games, the totals have been 7-6, 6-8, 7-9, 7-8, 9, and 10. And even those sixes, the over under was at 6. So they haven't lost. They haven't gone under in their last 11 games. And for good reason. I mean, this team is starting to figure it out on offense. They're playing really well on offense, and I think their defense is actually trending the opposite direction. Now, I agree with so many where the goalies are a huge part of this play. But for me, I'm pretty confident we're going to see Bobrovsky for the Panthers. And on the other side, it really doesn't matter to me. I mean, Djokovic would be much better for our over than Huso, but I still have them both over 7 goals. So I could honestly see both teams getting to 3 here. I could see a Panthers kind of a blowout win, a 5-3 or 5-2. Either way, this will be on the over 6.5 at even money here as a locked in play, and just hoping we get Neds in goal because he's been terrible. 74th in goals saved above expectations, Alex Nedeljkovic. So he's just completely fallen off a cliff the last year or so.
It is kind of crazy to me that we continuously sit here and have the conversation of like, if Bob is in net, I'm leaning the over. I'm waiting for Bob to go in net. Like, I understand why it's not ridiculous. Why it's just like that's a guy who's making $10.5 million.
I know.
Like,
I mean, last year he was awesome. Yeah, we played on him every game last year at home. But yeah, 72nd in goals saved above expectation is old Bob this year.
yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, I'm not gonna come down on him too much because I
Yeah,
still remember that series against Tampa Bay where we had Columbus. We actually had Columbus futures that year, though the year they lost to Boston. So he's got a soft spot in my heart.
no,
Still.
absolutely. I absolutely agree. Yeah, last year's was awesome. I'm not going to come down too hard on him. I'm not going to play against him, but I'll keep taking the overs there.
Fair enough. All right. 2 more games here. We can touch through them if there's anything you guys want to get through on these ones. Winnipeg, St. Louis. I was talking about teams that have new coaches and have kind of adapted to them. Mark Scheifele had some very interesting comments about Rick Bowness the other day when they played against the Florida Panthers. I don't know if you guys caught those, but they asked him about it, and he went on a run of like a 2 to 3 minute response for like no reason, basically being like, yeah, we love Rick Bowness. He cares about the players. He does all this stuff for us. He checks in with us, blah, blah, blah. And he just kept going on about how much he loved Rick Bowness and what Rick Bowness is doing there in Winnipeg. And I mean, hey, kudos to Rick Bowness for stepping in and kind of getting a hold of those guys, especially given he came in and basically just took the C away from Blake Wheeler. Yeah. And it was like, oh my God, this team was bad last year. I don't know if they're going to be able to turn it around. And now they have this nonsense surrounding them. And they have turned it around. They've looked pretty good so far to start this season. They're first in the Central Division. They're like, you're looking at a spot where they've got as many points as Dallas does. They're 2 games back on Dallas, though, in terms of games played. Like, Winnipeg has continued to roll on. They're getting Vezina candidate goaltending out of Connor Hellebuck. And then flip side, St. Louis. This is a team where the coach, we've talked about him potentially having his hat in the ring for first coach fired. Their goaltending is a tire fire. Jordan Binnington can't stay in the net, whether it's because he's getting kicked out or if it's because he's getting pulled. This is a tale of like 2 stories here with Winnipeg and St. Louis going head to head. Russ, how do you kind of break this one down?
Yeah, 2 teams going in the complete opposite direction here. I think we chatted about this a little bit before coming on air, and this is a very, very strange line to me. My numbers actually have it fairly close to where it's at, but when you look at the eye test, I think these teams are just completely different. Winnipeg 7-3 in their last 10, and St. Louis is 4-6, just going the opposite direction. And like you said, Hellebuck is just amazing. First in goals saved above expectations, first in wins above replacement. So this guy's just carrying the whole team, I think. One little concern I do have is the Jets are much, much better team at home. On the road, they're not quite as good as they are at home. I mean, they're just completely dominant at home. But again, I don't worry about this Blues team much at all. I have the Blues as the 27th ranked team in my power rankings, and we've got the Winnipeg Jets at the 9th ranked team. So I just don't understand this line at all. And this will be a little bit dependent on goalie. I don't think I would like a play here if we saw Thomas Greiss in the net for the Blues, but if we get Bennington against Hellebuck, I think I think it's a great play to have a ticket on the Jets here. I don't think this is a trap or one to overthink. I just think this line's probably a little bit short on the Jets. Should probably be closer to 130, 135 if we get Hellebuck, but versus Bennington.
Yeah, I agree. I like the Jets here as well. I'm just waiting for the right strike price because it's going to change depending on St. Louis's goalie. As Russ mentioned, it's funny. Grice is actually an upgrade these days on Bennington, so I think that we'll have to wait on that a little bit. But just on the Blues as a whole, I was of the I was in the camp that I thought Berube was safe, but as this team continues to struggle. And what I see out of St. Louis is that the precedence was set for that organization to let a coach go um, in the middle of the season when they're having a bad season, and they completely turned it around. Of course, with historic proportions. Obviously, that's not going to happen again, but um, that path was paved already. So I don't think that as this team continues to struggle, that Berube is as safe as I thought he was just even a week ago. And Armstrong has shown that he's got no problems with blowing anything up that he feels like. So
Yeah.
I think that this Blues team is in a bit of a free fall right now. I don't care about that last win against the Islanders. There's a lot going on with the Islanders that we can touch on another time, but I don't give them much credit for that win. Just like the Kings, one game is not going to change kind of the trajectory that I had for you. So I think that I do like the Jets. I'll probably be on them. Most likely, I'll be on them. It's just a matter of what number that it's going to move to once we have goalie confirmation for the Blues. But I think we can lock in the Jets right now. There's I'll be on them regardless. It's just a matter of waiting on the price.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am seeing minus 108 right now, best price there on the Pinnacle Sportsbook. So we will lock that in on the Edgework account as well. You can track all these picks in the BetStamp app. If you go to the little button that says Find Bettors, it's like little 2-person icon there. You click on that, you can search Edgework, and you can track all of our plays in real time. Final game of the night here, guys. I have a couple player props that I'm going to throw out there. Maybe we can debate through some of them and maybe lock in one or two, but there's 4 that I've been eyeing. But this is the Ottawa-Dallas game. Ottawa obviously has started to play a little bit better. A lot of it has been on the back of Brady Tkachuk. He basically went into like hero mode and was like, all right, if we're going to win games, it's going to be because of me. And it's kind of funny because after this little run he's been on, a lot of the conversation has been he started to kind of look like his dad. Now, I wasn't fortunate enough to get to watch Keith play, but that being said, there's enough people out there who did get to watch him play, making the comparison for me to say that there's probably some merit to that sentiment. Now, this Dallas team, on the other hand, they have been very good so far to start this season. They have some new life in them. They've got Jason Robertson, who unfortunately just had his point streak come to an end, but you're looking at a guy who's putting up points at a rapid pace. Jamie Benn finds life with these 2 young guys on his line, and obviously your goaltender in net, Ottinger, he's just been incredible. He was last year. He continues to be this season. So money, this spot here, Dallas, Ottawa. How do you break this one down?
I think it's lined correctly. I think that Dallas should be a pretty good size favorite, and they are. Ottawa, they have been playing well and they've been getting results lately, but just to put things in perspective, those wins were against Anaheim, LA, Rangers, and the Sharks, right? So not exactly a murderer's row there. So I think that we need to kind of tone it back a bit on Ottawa. This is a significant step up in class for them right now, based on the previous opponents. So I think that we're lined correctly. Ottawa's goaltending, it goes in and out. Right now, it's kind of on the outs, so we'll see who gets started there. But I won't have anything here on the side in total. I think that it's a good line with Dallas being a significant favorite and a juice to 6.5.
Yep.
All right. And Russ, any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, just real quick, as you know, if you followed this show, we love playing the Stars at home. Always love playing the Stars at home, but we will need Forsberg to be confirmed in goal. Now, I don't think we'll see much line movement once he is confirmed, just because I think it's pretty much baked into the line, whoever, Talbot or Forsberg. But I think once we get Forsberg, then I'll confirm that. And yeah, it's a simple numbers play for me. I have Dallas more like minus 220 at home here, minus 225. So if you're going to give me minus 180-ish, or even the regulation price at minus 115, minus 120, then that will definitely be a play for us tonight. Yeah, I mean, just a few things going forward, or just a few things kind of to add on this. Dallas is 5th in goals for at home, 11th in goals allowed at home. Ottinger's 13th in goals saved above expectation. They're coming off of that terrible, terrible game against the Leafs, in which we lost a couple units on that game, and Matthew Murray just played amazing. So I think the Stars will come out mean, come out pissed off against the Ottawa team that really cannot do anything on defense. Their defense is just very, very poor. Now, they have played better in the last few games, and generally this Sens team has been a play-on team for me this year. And both of these teams are teams that I've liked this year. The Stars at home just trumps, most of my positions. And like I said, it's a pure numbers thing. Yeah, I don't mind taking the Stars regulation minus 120 or so tonight. So that's a number I'll be looking for once we get Forsberg confirmed in goal. And Ottinger, obviously, if we have Wedgwood for the Stars, there'll be no play at all.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna throw out some of these player props, and some of them is a little tough based on the fact that if it is, we don't necessarily know if it will be Wedgwood or Ottinger in net here tonight, but they're goal scorer props. I'll just throw them out. We can debate them, and then maybe lock one in as like a best bet here. So the first one is Drake Batherson, anytime goal scorer, plus 280. Drake Batherson, his expected goals so far this season, he's at 10.4. The actual goals that he's scored has been 6, but with this Ottawa team starting to score a little bit more, Drake Batherson's been involved in the offense and creating some of the offense, just hasn't necessarily been on the side of putting the puck in the net for this Ottawa team. And at plus 280, I think that could be a pretty good spot, especially if you end up with Wedgwood in net for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, I mean, if you got Wedgwood in there, this would definitely be a great look. If I would not say the same thing if we get Ottinger in goal. Ottinger has he's been known to just absolutely show out, and I think he played well against the Leafs. They just played a lot better on defense, and Murray played a lot better. So I think I agree with you completely. If you get Wedgwood here, there's a number of Ottawa Sens guys I would like to take to score a goal. And this would potentially be a look for at the over if we get Forsberg and Wedgwood in goal. So, yeah, I don't disagree at all. If you get Ottinger, I would not probably play any of the Sens overs on their player props.
Another guy that I would throw out there with the Sens on that one as well, you could probably get a pretty good price on him, is especially if you shop around, Alex DeBrincat, anytime goal. I was seeing plus 195, but I just think that guy's goal scoring's got to turn around. Numbers would kind of indicate that as well. He's around 12 expected goals on the season, and he only has 6 so far. Now, that's not like a telltale sign of, hey, this guy will start scoring or should be scoring, but the guy, he's a very good goal scorer. And I think at some point here, it'll start to catch up a little bit and average out. But again, it's like, as Russ has continued to say and beat home on this one, like, if it's Ottinger, it could be a very tough one. Now, on the other side, to me, this one, as naive as this may be, it doesn't really matter who the goaltender is for Ottawa here tonight.
Yeah.
I think Tyler Seguin, anytime goal scorer plus 265 could be a good look for this game. That one actually might be one that I would be interested in locking in. And it's just like, I just think that this Ottawa team is a little bit leaky. You could have any type of goaltender, whether it be either of those two guys. They could have a wide variety of games that they play on any night. I think that there could be an opportunity for Dallas to even just respond here and put up a bunch of goals. And Tyler Seguin is a guy who would like to contribute to some of that and get in the mix. So I think Tyler Seguin plus 265 could be a good look for a goal tonight.
Yep.
Yeah, I like Sagan the best out of them all. I think that if there are goals scored in this game, which I think there will be, the chances are a lot of them are coming from the Stars. So I do agree with the Ottawa guys, but I think there's a better probability of a Sagan coming in for us.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just to reiterate, the Suns 17th in expected goals allowed and 23rd in high danger shots against. So they're just getting peppered with shots every game. Really, really good shots. So yeah, that would be the way I would look too. And Tyler Seguin looks like a great angle with how he's been playing lately.
All right, well, there you have it. We'll lock in the Tyler Seguin one. So official ones that we've locked in here tonight is the Detroit, Florida over 6.5. Winnipeg, St. Louis. We have Winnipeg on the money line. Tyler Seguin, anytime goal. A few that you need to look out for would be looking out for goalie matchups, how those lines might move, how those might affect some things. So keep your eyes peeled for who gets confirmed in here tonight. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this show. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you hit like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can throw us a follow on Twitter at EdgeworkShow. And if you want to follow all the picks that are given out on this show, make sure that you head on over to the BetStamp app. You can find us in the Find Bettors place, and you can click on Edgework there. Throw us a follow. You get notifications in real time. You can track all of the picks that happen. Russ, So Money, thank you guys so much. Good luck on your bets here tonight, and I will see you guys next Thursday.
Yep.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
luck. Cheers, guys.